Esports is taking another step towards becoming a legitimized sport, at least in France anyway. The French government has passed legislation regulating contracts for esports athletes this week. The laws mandate an esports contract can be no longer than 5 years and no shorter than 12 months. They also bar competitors under 12 from participating in monetized events. The laws mark the first time a Western government has moved to regulate esports as they would traditional sports.
I think this is all probably a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said for a long time that there needs to be more protections built in for the players. This is a first step towards that.
And plus, the government is actually recognizing that esports is a thing and needs regulation, which
that's true.
legitimizes everything.
Well, and it's something we've identified as a problem with esports being run by so many different companies. How do you ever get any kind of unified set of rules? And I think this is one way you can do it, is if the government for your country mandates what your esports contracts can look like.
At least in a broad stroke fashion.
Yeah. They don't have to get specific, but to be able to say, hey, an esports contract is binding for 12 months. That means if I go into a team and I get off to a slow start, I'm not being cut 3 weeks into my performance.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that is a big thing. Now, we have seen things like this in the past on the other side of the world. We have the KESPA League, or the KESPA organization over in Korea, and what that does is that is a much broader program. They do everything from running tournaments. They handle like when they had the
match fixing.
The match fixing thing. KESPA was the ones who would lay down the law on that. That's part of their oversight, is to handle that sort of thing. So we've seen this already over on the other side of the world, but we've never seen any kind of government even recognize esports outside. The United States does grant athletic visas for players to travel. We do have that, but this is the first time that like the French government now is trying to legislate what a esports contract can look like and build some protections into those athletes.
Yeah, exactly. You can't have, someone who signs on for, ostensibly what they think is going to be several years and then dump them after a month. There does have to be protections that are built in because, the athletes are the ones that are really at risk if they don't know how to navigate contracts or if they don't have very good legal representation. And as we've seen, they've limited the age for participation at 12. And so, we see that this goes to even a very, 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 very young age. We've known that, young kids compete in esports, and that's pretty, pretty normal. But even setting that, even setting that limit at 12.
12 is really young.
It's really fucking young.
It is, but when you think about like on that Gamers show, there's a 14-year-old on there.
There is, yeah.
That's also a 6-month contract they're competing for.
And I mean, even thinking about it, like just getting into gaming in general, though, my sister started FF11 when she was 12, and I could have easily seen like kids nowadays getting into other online games when they're 12. It doesn't seem that out of the reach.
Yeah, but they're competing in esports.
Competing and getting pots of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars.
I assume, it's all it has to have parents' support, parents' permission, all that yada yada legal stuff, right? Yeah. I would assume
probably, but I think it's still a big step then for the French government to just say no. If you're under 12, you can't compete in a monetized tournament.
I mean, it does. You're right. It does end up butting up against things like child labor laws, and you would have to get things like parent approval and stuff like that. But I mean, there are scenarios where. Hell, let's say a kid doesn't even get along with his parents, and now you as an organization are going to come in and provide him financial support, and there's got to be protections that are built in for that kid, even if it's something as simple as, okay, you're signed on for a contract, your minimum duration is a year, right? Like there are tons of ways to be able to prey on someone who is 13, 14, 15 years old, especially if they don't have good counsel in their lives, and who knows what the personal situations of any of these folks are, and so these very basic bare bones protections have got to be there.
So I think my question is do you want to see the United States adopt something like what France is doing, where it's very broad and very basic, or something more like KESPA, which is judge, jury, and executioner for the whole?
No. I'm sorry. Have you seen our government recently? I don't want them touching anything.
Here's fair point.
Here's my take on it. Is I think that North America should look at this and go, okay, if this is what's going to be happening, with esports on a big level, we, like the ESRB, we should get out ahead of this.
Yes.
And we should be proactive about this, and either work with organizations like ESIC or come up with their own regulations and come out ahead of it instead of having it be imposed on them by some kind of government agency, because that rarely works out very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked okay for KESPA, but there's of course problems with it. I agree with you. I think and they could pretty much use the same threat, like, you guys either figure this out or we will figure it out. I mean, and it's completely up to you.
It's so quaint to imagine a government or a government body going, well, you fucking figure it out before we get involved. Like, it seems like anymore when the conversation is raised, there's already a preconceived notion or a pre-decided outcome that's going to happen.
About video games.
You know what I mean? Like, it's less about like, this is a genuine problem that needs to be addressed, and more like, okay, this is the chess piece that that we need to move into place to be able to add this pork barrel clause or whatever. Like, it's all so cynical at this point that the notion of the Senate going to the video games industry and going, well, you fucking figure it out, is just cute. It's like, it's adorable. Because problems don't happen like that anymore.
No, it's like, there's a problem. Guess what? We're fixing it.
Yeah, and now
fixing it.
Now it's to the point where lobbyists are involved, and they're part of big business, and it's
Blizzard, Activision.
It's a whole industry unto itself. I mean, like,
how can big business take over the esports industry? Now we get 10% of all the contracts that you sign, or just let's do it ourselves.
I don't think that's how it works, but
no, but government regulation is, while it's not the worst thing, like,
government taxes on esports contracts. Come on,
I'd rather see a union or some kind of body that has been established outside of the call for government action, that is proactive within the industry, that says, we do recognize that there's a lot of investment here. We recognize that we want to take care of our players, and we're going to come together and form a decision on how that's done. I think that that's the responsible thing to do, especially in the face of this. Any more of these, France, putting that out there, I think is a pretty big deal. Mm-hmm. But you get very many more countries that follow suit, and you know what? There is going to be pressure to do that over here.
And I think, like, if they took it the same approach that France has taken with it, we're just saying, like, these are some bare bones protections that we're putting out there for the esports athletes, not so much for the organizations themselves, I would be very much in support of that. I think if they were to come out, especially here, and say your minimum contract is 12 months, and obviously if a player does something ridiculous that negates the contract or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, but
you can't cut them for bad performance for 12 months. You are signing them for 12 months.
Yeah. There's obviously conduct standards that come along with any kind of contract.
Of course.
Yeah.
Any kind. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you act out of turn, they should be able to terminate it under certain circumstances. Sure. But having the protection, I think that's a good idea. I would just like to see it managed independently.